Hello everyone, I've got a new team that I've been having some success with today, and I thought I'd share it with you. I've recorded a whole bunch of matches because I did 4 sets with it, and I thought I'd just slap them all into the footage. It was a bit lazy to not curate them, but I thought I'd give you a real view of how this team worked. What we've got here is a Tentacruel on the lead with Acid Spray and Hydro Pump, and we've got Umbreon and Mandibuzz. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you'll know my opinion of Mandibuzz is basically flying Umbreon. And that got me to thinking, well, why not bring an Umbreon to go with a flying Umbreon? The point of this one is it's a bait team. If you switch in either Mandibuzz or Umbreon, you will likely draw out a Dark counter, and that's, you know, about half the time that's a Charmer, and about the other half the time it's an Azumarill. Which, as I'm sure you're aware, Tentacruel does murderous work against both of those. So try and bait out their Charmer, or their basically bait the Fairy is the name of the game here. We then eat it with the Tentacruel and hopefully save up some energy lead and get that Acid Spray off to line up a sweep with whatever's left. It works quite well, I think, because both Umbreon and Mandibuzz function very well in no shields, and Tentacruel's actually still pretty sturdy, even though its moves aren't really the best. I'm not a big fan of Hydro Pump just because it's so expensive, but it does do good work. I think a Quillfish might well do this better actually, but either way, I don't have a Quillfish, so I thought I'd go with it. As I'm sure you'll probably be screaming at the screen right now, you'll go, well, what about Galvantula? Galvantula is indeed something of a problem for this team, because it does play against all three. However, it is also very squishy, so whilst you can look at it and say, well, in the one shield it wins against everything, yes, it's true. Against an Umbreon in the 2 shields, it's got 6 hit points left, so it's not a threat to anything left. So if they do bring out an Umbreon and a Galvantula, and you can get your Umbreon on it, that pretty much neutralises it. You can farm it afterwards, and you're fine. That's really the trick there. And otherwise, what about double Charmers? Well, yes, I think I do have some recording of running into a multiple Fairy team. And actually, Tentacruel is really quite good. It walls it quite hard, so you can actually go 2 versus 1 if they're sort of pure Fairy, or if they're Azumarill plus Charmer. So it's not as bad as it looks. So with that out of the way, I've got that out of the way in front because I've got a lot of matches here, and I don't want to bore you at the end. So if you feel that this is getting tedious, then feel free to stop, because I'm not going to say very much when I conclude. So let's hop into those matches then. You'll see in the first few matches, they don't all go sort of perfectly well. I misplay quite badly. These are the very first matches with this team, so you'll see I'm making some real blunders here. Right, first up, Mandibuzz. So we just sort of farm it down to get a bit of energy, and we're going to switch in. We anticipate that it's probably a foul play, and don't shield. I think I probably should have shielded here, because actually probably the biggest damage move that's going to happen. So we Acid Spray, and then we go for a switch to our own Mandibuzz. Now, if they stay in, they've got a slight health disadvantage, maybe got a bit of energy lead, but they've got that double debuff. And Acid Spray means I'm doing 50% more damage to them. So as you can see, that nibble of the Aerial Ace didn't do a great deal, and we're just kind of farming away. I'm going to throw our Aerial Ace in return. I hadn't thrown it till now because I didn't want to spook them, and as you can see, I do a lot more than they do. So we can just eat their return move and get that last bit of energy off them. Their own Tentacruel. It's getting popular. Some people have posted about it being great in this meta, and I think they're right. The reason Tentacruel isn't very popular normally is because there's just too much steel around, and Poison Jab is very bad against steel types. But it's really good against Azumarill, it's really good against Fairies, and if you can control the meta to that extent, which we have, it's got some good play. And Acid Spray me. I don't shield because it's a Mandibuzz, and so I bring in my own Tentacruel. Now they've used up their energy, they're probably going to Acid Spray me again. That's okay, it doesn't do much damage. Yeah, Acid Spray. So we farm up here. Our Tentacruel will go down a bit faster. We take out their Mandibuzz, and it's a Marowak in the back. That also isn't going to like the Tentacruel, but you know what it also doesn't like? It doesn't like Mandibuzz either, and it doesn't like Umbreon, and it certainly doesn't like being Acid Sprayed before dropping Umbreon on it. My opponent concedes. Good game. That happens quite a bit actually, because there's both Mandibuzz and Umbreon are sufficiently chunky that it will use up their core counter. So if they only have one counter, which a lot of teams do, they're in trouble. I think it's mainly the same as the grass hole or rock hole teams that are becoming popular. A part of the reason I went with this is, alright, so we lead into an Azumarill, which is great. This is the dream. We're hoping we're expecting them to switch because it is really not a good idea to stay in, but they don't. We resist everything they've got, so incoming Crossall, which is an interesting choice because that also doesn't like water very much. So that implies the back row is also, all weak to Tentacruel. So we shield because we actually don't want to take the damage. It wouldn't have hurt enough to matter, but now we've got the debuff, we switch to our Umbreon. This is probably going to be a bug move, which is going to be super effective. It's going to hurt, but not that much. Umbreon is very tanky. And another bug move. X-Scissor is just generally a dreadful move. However, when it's a dark type to use it on, it becomes not quite so bad. It's got very poor DPE, so it's really not worth using most of the time, and it's resisted by so many things that it's also not worth using. However, in a limited meta like this, it's got a bit more value. Alright, so goodbye Crossall, and it's an Azumarill, and so that's a really solid pick against an Umbreon, but when you've got no shields left, and I've got Last Resort, well, as you can see, Last Resort doesn't do a great deal, but that's okay, we're pecking away, and now that was a misplay there. I should have just used the dark move rather than waste the energy, but I don't think it's going to matter here because we've still got two shields. Oh, sorry, we've still got one shield. They've got a Azumarill in front of us. I don't think we're going to be able to farm it all the way down, even with resisting its moves. Yeah, there we go. So, as you can see, its Ice Beams are just not doing anything. We are going to throw an Acid Spray here. I'd had hoped to save it up for whatever comes in next, but I don't think we're going to... Okay, so we've got that last bit of farm and a Marowak. So, as you can see, everything in their team was vulnerable to a Tentacruel, and with a Marowak, well, Marowak's walled by Mandibuzz. It's even worse than a Umbreon matchup because it can't even Bone Club. Well, it can Bone Club. Look at that. Does nothing. This is a good game to opponent. They concede. Between Shadow Ball being resisted and Bone Club being resisted, Marowak is hard countered by Mandibuzz. And this is why I was doing quite well with this team today, because my better today is very much Azumarill and Alolan Marowak. So, leading into a Clefable. They haven't switched. Why have they not switched? Okay, they switched into an Azumarill. This is sending me a message. Either they really botched their switch, which does happen, I've done it myself a few times, or they've got a really disastrously weak team to a Tentacruel. So, actually, I'm just going to stay in here, and I'm going to eat their Azumarill, and I'm going to hope their Clefable comes out, and we'll eat that next. And now, at this point, I'm toying with actually shielding, because I do want to preserve my Tentacruel, but it seems such a shame when you resist every single move they've got. But still, we take out the Azumarill quite handily. We do throw the energy instead of farming it, because they bring the Clefable in. Now, this is something else that's just like, what do they have in the back that is worse to bring into a matchup than a Fairy type against a Poison type? We're going to find out, because Tentacruels are dangerous sweeping their whole team. It's an Alolan Marowak. Well, we haven't got the energy left to water them, and the Fire Spin is going to nibble away at us, but as I said before, Mandibuzz has a nice time with Alolan Marowak. Let's see if they want to play this out, or whether they're just going to give up. I think we might just go for the spending no shields flex on them, and just sort of peck away and see if we can take them down with having spent no shields and no KOs. It's a bit cheeky to do this, and it's a bit cocky, but in this scenario, look, what they got? Shadow Ball. So Shadow Ball is the best move it's got. It's not very effective. Bone Club, well, you've already seen, Bone Club does almost nothing. The Fire Spin, well, the Fire Spin is adding up a little bit, I guess, but it's not going to help. Goodbye. I would say good game, but that seemed quite unfair to my opponent. Right, so this is the challenge here, Galvantula. I've tried to play this a couple of ways, and this is one of the ways to not do it. With Galvantula, what you really need to do is get the Umbreon onto it. If you switch in the Umbreon now, they are likely to stick around because they know their bug move does good damage against it. Not the Mandibuzz, because whilst the Mandibuzz does quite well, because the flying moves are neutral, it still takes super effective from the electric. So you can peck away. So here's where I'm misplaying, because I'm building up an aerial ace. Why am I building up an aerial ace? Well, I should throw it, really, because I can't really afford to sit here and take super effective fast moves. I should definitely throw it now, before it takes me out. just stupid on my part, just stupid. So the trick there is to actually use your charge move, and you'll get the shield off them, and you'll have a chance of equalising a little bit, because I think depends what they've got in the back. If they've got an Azumarill in the back, I shouldn't have used up the Tentacruel here. I should have brought in the Umbreon and gone on in with the Umbreon. Now this I'm expecting to draw out any Azumarills if they've got any, and there we go. So if I'd won the switch against the Spider, I'd have been able to align the Tentacruel with the Azumarill and probably won it. But I didn't, so I won't. At this point, they've got the two good matchups, and so I'm in trouble. My only hope here is really to Tentacruel on the Azumarill and hope I can farm it enough to get the energy to take out the Skuntank. Now, as you can see, it's not going to go too badly, because even in an adverse matchup, Umbreon still does some quite good work. But they've got the shield, and they've got a Pokemon lead, so my health's getting low. And that was the other mistake I made. I let the health get down with the Spider a bit too much, because now I can't really get away with the farm down the Azumarill, which is, if I had a bit more health, maybe I would manage that. Still, I'm learning with this team, and you'll see I get Galvantula a bit later on in the set of matches, and it goes a lot more smoothly. So, yes, Galvantula is a threat for this team. It's one you really need to learn how to play. Okay, Umbreon lead, fine. We're just going to build up some energy and probably bring in our own Umbreon, or maybe a Mandibuzz. I can't quite remember which one I did in this set. Normally the trick is to switch in the Umbreon, but it's a bit of a depends on what you're facing. In this case, I've gone with the Mandibuzz. I guess it's kind of a Mandibuzz does effectively wall the Umbreon. If they've got last resort, you're in a good place. Okay, so it's an Azumarill. Mandibuzz versus Azumarill isn't too terrible. I mean, Play Rough will hurt, and if you go no shields against them, well, this will happen. Ice Beam. Ice Beam's probably the better bet, because they don't really need to Play Rough you. That's okay, and it's cheaper for them. It's okay though, because you can take one, and Aerial Ace will nibble away. You don't have to spend that shield just yet, and you get some damage off. Aerial Ace doesn't do a lot though, which is why I think it's a bit limited here. You are relying on the flying damage here, and your bulk. But as you can see, the Azumarill was quite comfortably down into the red now, and that's no shields down, so that's not too bad. And now what we're going to do is sit here and farm, and just get that energy down. We'll eat whatever they throw, because we can, and let's Play Rough. Okay, there we go. In comes an Umbreon, we go straight into Hydro Pump. Acid Spray might have been a better bet, but they didn't shield. You're playing a bit of a guessing game and trying to guess whether they want to spend a shield, and often on something tanky like an Umbreon or an Azumarill, they don't. So, right, so we quickly switch to catch their charge move on something where we're not very effective and hoping to catch a foul play, and there we are. Lovely. Now, here's a Galvantula. Now, this is a problem for us because they've got the shield lead. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let this land. No, we're not. Okay, the other trick I found with this is normally you can afford to let the first lunge land, and that way give them a choice to either concede the shield or not, and let their health go down a bit. You can. I think if you look at the simulations, you can take 4 lunges before you go down, and you will outpace them to foul plays. So next lunge incoming. We've got both their shields now, so that's actually quite good. And there's the lunge. So the lunge landed, and we get the foul play just before their next one. So even with that adverse matchup of shield deficit and everything else, it's still not actually all that bad. However, now we're in a position where they've got the energy, they've taken us out, and good game to my opponents. So it goes. It's playable. It's just obviously Galvantula is a problem for the team. Right, it's Tentacruel into Gengar. So another one where actually what we don't want to do is be facing Gengar with this. We want to chase it off with a Dark type, and then switch in a Marowak. Well, okay, so this tells me something about their team. They're double Ghost at least, and so double Dark is going to have a bit of fun with this. The Marowak's clearly trying to dodge the Water type, but I don't think they've thought it through because, as I say, Marowak doesn't do very well against Mandibuzz at all. Bone Club? Nope. We're just going to farm it. No shields, Bone Club, Shadow Ball, don't care. Shadow Ball, go on, show us how much damage it does. There we go, not very much. Nice big energy reserve, yep. Okay, bring the Gengar back, we want to foul play it. Nope, it's It's a victory bell. Well, that's also not going to have fun against this team. So flying damage coming through. Pretty much got to shield this because it's squishy. So we're going to have both their shields off them first. Thank you very much. And now we know they've only got a Gengar left, and we've got an Umbreon, and that's pretty much a good game, actually, I think. So now we're left with a choice: Tentacruel versus or Umbreon versus. So we're bringing the Umbreon. I'm not so sure about this one, but my opponent is and concedes. I presume they only had ghost moves on the Gengar, which means that even if they did some good work with Victory Bell, it would get walled and it would be in trouble. Right, here's the dream. Azumarill will lead into a Tentacruel. If they stay in, we do them damage. If they don't stay in, well, we get switch advantage. Right, nicely timed switch on my charge move, but that's okay because this is probably what I've done anyway. I throw the Acid Spray and I switch into my Mandibuzz because their Dark Poison hits us for neutral and we're bulky, and we hit them for neutral with flying damage, and we're bulky too. Acid Spray, well, sensible call, I think. I wasn't going to shield it either way, so that's fine. We're just going to nibble away with Aerial Aces, because it's quite likely what they've got is Snarl, Dark Pulse and Acid Spray, and we resist their Dark Pulse now. If they'd had Sludge Wave, we'd have been in a bit more trouble, but it seems they don't. So it's one of the downsides of a muck in this meta, I think. There's too many Darks to really get away with the Acid Spray approach. You might manage it if you go Poison Jab, I think, but I don't think you want to really rely on just having one damage move with one type, really. You might get away with it with something like Lunge, because obviously that does some good damage, whereas Acid Spray doesn't. Okay, the Azumarill comes back, that's good, because we've now aligned it with our Tentacruel, and we're just going to use up that Aerial Ace. It's not going to do a lot of good, but it's a bit of chip damage, it's not a bad thing. So out comes Tentacruel, in comes the Marowak, and okay, so Marowak versus Umbreon isn't quite as disgusting as versus Mandibuzz. However, we're still quite sturdy, and Bone Club still isn't a very good damaging move, so we can safely ignore the threat of Shadow Ball. It still does a little bit more damage, but it's not very much, and as you can see, we do quite a lot with our Dark in return. I think we might even be able to farm this down. Go on, further Shadow Ball. No, Bone Club. They're going to Bone Club us down, I think. Probably sensible, it's just, well, yeah. Right, we don't throw the energy here. I was hoping to undercharge and not take it out, but that's okay. We've got a Azumarill, got an energy lead, we're just going to let it throw because we've still got the Tentacruel in the back. And Play Rough comes through, get to a Last Resort even better. Last Resort again is not a great move, but it's really the only move in this scenario. So, 2 shields and a Tentacruel versus an Azumarill. I don't think we even need a shield here, actually. I think we can just nibble it away with Poison Jabs and go no shields. Acid Spray, get the damage on. They can't switch out to clear the debuff, that's why Acid Spray works quite well against the back row. And goodbye Azumarill. Thank you very much. Pokemon Go is not responding apparently, it does that a lot. Right, Tentacruel into Beedrill. It's neutralish this, could do poison to each other. Their drill runs are going to hurt. This was a bit too fast, so I'm going to call it a Fell Stinger. And yep, it was. They boosted their attack, and so we go for the switch. We go to a Mandibuzz. The reason we go for Mandibuzz is because then their drill runs do absolutely nothing. Out comes a Crustle. It's a bit of a nuisance. Crustle's rock moves are hurty against the Mandibuzz, but Aerial Ace is neutral at least because the rock and the bug type cancel out, and obviously our flying fast move does nibble away at it. This will likely be a Rock Slide. We're going to let it land. It's an X-Scissor, even better. Good of them to try and bait us. So we get to our flying move and we just Aerial Ace them. So we've got the shield lead, we're going to lose the switch, but that's okay, that's okay. So now we can bring in the Tentacruel. They looks like they've got a Rock Slide ready. We're going to let it land. Probably shouldn't have done in hindsight, but either way. Build up to our 2 Acid Sprays, throw 1. And I think I made a mistake in this one because I've assumed something about their back row, and I think it's quite good chances in the Azumarill waiting for us with a double bug in the front. X-Scissor does a super effective, so they're staying with the Crustle. That's okay. And it's an Azumarill. So I've let my health get a bit too low on the Tentacruel, and so I'm in a difficult position. I should have shielded that Rock Slide really. I think this is going to go to my opponent now because even with 2 shields, I I'm in trouble. I'm going to have to shield this because I can't risk a play rough landing. They have Ice Beamed me, which I'm a bit surprised at, actually. I think that's unwise if they've got play rough, so I'm going to guess they've got Ice Beam and Hydro Pump. So that's actually not too bad. That leaves us in a better position overall, but I think we're still onto a loser because our last resource isn't taking them down quite as fast as the Ice Beams will. Still, let's roll with it anyway. We're getting down as we move quite down nicely. They switch to the Beedrill. We just about get our acid spray off, so maybe this isn't a total loss. And we get the shield. Okay, even better. But our Umbreon's health is quite low, and they've probably got a drill run loaded by now. Yep, they do. Ouch. Again, even with that, the Umbreon still does some good work. We're going to not quite get to the foul play, but this is just a foul stinger. Our health is too low though, so good game to my opponent. I made a mistake there. I should have shielded against the Crustle, because those shields really should be safe for the Tentacruel. So it goes. I'm still learning with this one. Okay, Tentacruel into Crustle. This time we'll learn from our mistakes, and we'll... Right, so they're throwing rocks at us, that's fine. We build up. We do shield this time, because it's likely to be Rock Slide. And it's next scissor. Well, they're baiting us, great, fine. We acid spray them then. And we bring in our Umbreon. No, we bring in our Mandibuzz. Why did I do that? Okay, perhaps another mistake in this one. However, I'm thinking that this will keep the Crustle in place and keep it away from the Tentacruel, keep it away from the Umbreon. And in comes the Galvantula. Well, that's okay. We've baited it out, and we've got no shields left. However, Discharge does just about take us out. So if I throw the move, I'd have got the Galvantula down. And at this point, I'm in a really rough situation. Yeah, I've misplayed this one, and I feel like an idiot. So, you know, it all goes wrong occasionally. But we're going to go with it and just roll with it. And I think we conceded at that point, and in disgust. Azumarill into Tentacruel. Switch to Obstagoon, that's good because we can go for Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz likes Obstagoons because we resist their... well, we're neutral to their fighting damage and doesn't do a great deal. And we can peck away with our flying damage. It's not a lot of flying damage, but it is at least neutral here. So, you know, it's a fairly even matchup, but we've got more bulk than them. And if they throw Night Slashes, that does even less. So, I think their strategy is probably to fish for boosts here, which seems sensible. But I don't think it's going to help, because I think we're going to take them down. So we're going to nibble away. There we go, as you can see. They've got the boost, so it means they're likely to shield now, but we're just going to farm them all the way down. And then just double move the Azumarill, let it take us out, and then bring the Tentacruel back in. There we go. Double aerial aces. At 55 damage, it doesn't do a great deal. It's not a good move, but it's, you know, neutral in a scenario where foul play is resisted, so that's the call. I don't really like it, but it does well enough. I think in Open Great League, the Shadow Ball is the way to go, probably. That at least does neutral against the Azumarill, although you do have to then watch out for the Dark types. They're a lot less common in the Open Great League, so I think that's less of an issue. In comes a Tentacruel, and out comes their Beedrill. So we're going to Acid Spray this one. And probably go for the switch to Umbreon here, actually, because we do want to keep the Tentacruel Azumarill alignment. And they concede. A debuff Beedrill is going to have a rough time against an Umbreon, because even the drill runs, well, we've got the shield still, and we're outpacing them to charge moves. If they've got Fell Stinger, it won't be doing anything at all. If they've got X Scissor, it still won't be doing very much. So, Tentacruel into Clefable, great start for us, and they switch into an Ivysaur, which is a solid choice. We're going to go for our Mandibuzz, which resists the flying damage. It's likely a poison move, it'd be a sensible call, and it is, there we go. So Sludge Bomb does some decent damage here, but we still resist their grass, and we still hit them super effective, and we still got a lot of bulk, so we can get away without shielding, I think. There you go, yep, we're going to take down the Ivysaur quite merrily. One of the joys of Tentacruel, however, is because it's poison water, it's actually neutral to grass damage. So it's actually not as bad as it looks against an Ivysaur. I just bailed out because I wanted to keep the Clefable matchup, which is what I've got here. Clefable does okay, and we're just going to Acid Spray it, because they haven't switched out again. Actually, no, maybe they're switch locked. No, their switch lock should be gone. So they go into their Amok, which is great for us. We build up to an acid spray. This is probably a dark move, so we shield it. If we're really lucky, no, dark pulse. If we're lucky, it's an acid spray, and we can switch out to clear the debuff. But that's fine. A shield works against either. We acid spray them. We make our own switch, and we get the Umbreon into yellow and muck. Dark versus dark. They've got Sludge Wave. Yep, they do. Sludge Wave still hurts, as you can see. We've got Last Resort to throw back at them. Again, not a great move, but does do neutral damage here. So, and as they've been debuffed, it does quite a lot of neutral damage, so that's great. We can afford to take another Sludge Wave, I think. I'm just going to risk it, even if we can't. Okay, the Dark Pulse. So, in comes the Clefable. We throw the Last Resort. They're going to eat us, but that's okay. That's okay. Boink. I think they let their Clefable get a bit too low, because now we should be able to farm them down with the Tentacruel. This is probably a Meeching Mash, which I think we resist because we're water, but it still does quite a lot of damage, so we're going to shield it. It's probably the most damaging thing left on the field. Okay, so the Clefable's gone, and the Muck is low on health, and we throw our Acid Spray, which they can't afford not to shield because their health is too low. It always feels bad having to shield or something like that, but there we go. Good game to opponent. Next up, Dark Gengar. Ooh, how exciting. Spooky name. Right, so we're leading into Azumarill. This is the dream. We're just going to wait for them to switch, because they pretty much have to. No, they're going to throw their energy at us. Honestly, that's a mistake. Don't even waste your energy. It's just the worst thing you can throw your moves at. So we're going to build up a bit of energy lead. They seem to want to stay in, so we're going to acid spray them. I'm half guessing they might switch to clear the debuff, so that's why I built up a bit of energy lead. That way, if they switch, we get to the next one a bit quicker. But no, seems they want to stay in, and Ice Beam us for not very much whilst debuffed. It's bad call. Okay, Haunter. Haunter comes in, and we've got 2 acid sprays ready. Haunter can't really afford not to shield. That's the real danger with Haunter. So we throw the debuff, and because they're switch locked, we bring in the Umbreon. It might have a Sludge Bomb, I guess, but I don't think so. It's a Shadow Ball. Okay, Shadow Ball is usually a good move on Haunter, but in a dark meta, it's a bit of a disaster. So we're just going to farm this all the way down. Shadow Ball, if this is, it's going to hurt. Yep, there we go, but it's still not enough. We've taken 2 Shadow Balls off the gankiest thing in the game, built up an energy lead, and didn't use a charge move. Here comes the Azumarill again. We've got most of a Last Resort built up, and we've nearly got to the 2 there. And we take out the Azumarill. Tentacruel comes in. Tentacruel is good against dark types. It's not so good against Mandibuzz though. So we just throw the foul play because it is still squishy, and we bring the Mandibuzz in. We resist. Well, the dark and the flying cancel out against the fighting damage. The ground damage does nothing, like that. And the only thing that can hit us with is Sludge Bomb. It's not going to help. So yes, another 2 shields victory. Yeah, I had quite a few of those, despite the horrendous losses due to misplays. This team has done very, very well in a lot of matchups. It can claw back a disadvantage because of how awfully good Tentacruel is against Azumarill. So, a Scrafty lead. They're countering us and probably Dark Pulsing. Yeah, this is another one this team has trouble with, actually, I have to say, because obviously it has play against the Dark types as well. So basically I'm staying in for a little bit here, just trying to decide what to do with it. I throw the Hydro Pump because I think they might anticipate a bait, and they don't. So they shield, and that's a good call. So we shield the foul play, and in comes a Venusaur. That's okay, we can bring in our Mandibuzz and nibble away at the Venusaur with flying damage. But we have gone to shield deficit to do that. So yes, I think we're in a bit of a difficult position really, but if we can claw it back with an Azumarill in the back, maybe we'll get back to a winning position. Because the problem is that Scrafty with its dark fighting type is going to be murderous against the Umbreon we've got. So we've had to take it down a fair old chunk. Okay, so we're equal on shields now, and we're going to win the switch here. Venusaur is going to go down to the flying damage. That's good. They bring their Scrafty back out, which is sensible. We hit them super effective, but they do get a farm. So now we're going to have to hope they spend their energy on us, because we can't actually afford to go head to head with them with an Umbreon. Foul play goes, and it's an Azumarill. See, that was the thing. They've got counted to both the back row really, and the Tentacruel isn't going to be able to claw back enough. But we've still got some play here. We are gambling that they haven't got play rough. They probably do though, because most things do in this meta, and that takes a big chunk off us. We can still take 2 just about and get to that last resort, but last resort doesn't do enough here. So I think this is over. Good game to my opponents really. We'll get to another last resort potentially, maybe not. Even if we chucked it, I think we've been too low to stop the Scrafty taking us apart. Still, Scrafty's not too common in a Charmer-rich meta, so that's okay. It's another one that I think would be playable if I did it a bit better, but I needed to read the team a bit better before I could do that. With Tentacruel against Azumarill, you can claw back a lot of disadvantage. So they brought in Marowak against a Tentacruel. That tells me a lot about whatever's in the back. We're switching the Umbreon. In hindsight, perhaps it's not the best call, because the switch locked and Mandibuzz would have been better still. But it's okay. It's good enough. It's good enough. So incoming Bone Club. Actually, no. I think my thinking was going that if the Mandibuzz ends up on the Wigglytuff in the back, then actually Mandibuzz does the flying neutral damage rather than the resisted dark damage, and that's why I wanted to preserve that matchup. And either way, Bone Club's neutral, but it still doesn't do a lot, and we're just going to go for a bit of a farm down. And I'm getting cheeky here, and I'm greedily farming the whole thing. Perhaps that's a bit too bold, because my health is getting really low now, and I don't think I'll get to 2 charge moves. I probably should have just, thrown one a bit earlier, because then I might have got to a second last resort here, and as it stands, it takes me out with a charm. But that's okay. Bring Tentacruel in, and we're going to try and equalise the score. We're going to build up to an acid spray and throw it. Get that debuff on them. Their switch clock has elapsed, so they switch out to an Azumarill, where we're just going to do the same thing. Yum yum. With 2 fairies on their team, you'd have thought 2 darks would be a problem, but I think you'll see how Tentacruel does quite nicely here, because there's just nothing they can do against it with Azumarill. In fact, I think the whole team is weak to a Tentacruel. The best thing they had was the Alolan Marowak when they switched it in, which probably says a lot actually. We are going to shield the Ice Beam because our health is getting a bit low here, but we are farming down the Azumarill to get a nice big energy lead, and we're going to acid spray the Wigglytuff when it comes back in. There we go, acid spray, and we're going to get to another acid spray, and that's a double defense debuff. So 4 stages puts it on 50% defense, so everything does double, and there we go. Your charm might do a lot of damage, but my poison jab does an awful lot with a stacked debuff. Right, next up. Tentacruel into Marowak. So what we switch into tells us a lot. We switch into our dark type here because we actually want to bait out their counter. And Shadow Ball actually does us quite a lot of harm. So by bringing out Mandibuzz, we've drawn out an Obstagoon, which is great for us actually, because Obstagoon is actually quite a problem for an Umbreon, but isn't nearly as much problem for a Mandibuzz. So Aerial Ace goes through. We're doing neutral with the flying. It's not a lot of damage with the flying, but again we're relying on our bulk and the fact that their counters are neutral to us, and their Night Slashes are resisted. So they're left trying to fish for a buff, or they're left trying to throw resisted charge moves. So Night Slash goes down. I'm gonna have to guess they've got a Gunk Shot in the pipes there, so that might hurt. But right, so taking down the Obstagoon, they bring in the Marowak, which is also a bit of a strange play. It's telling me that something they've got in the back doesn't really like it, but I suppose they can farm us with Fire Spins, so it's not terrible. And we bring the Umbreon here to go up against the Marowak. And it's Galvantula. We've got an energy lead this time though, and we've got a shield lead. So foul play does a big chunk off the Galvantula. You basically only need to land 2, whereas they need to land 2 lunges. This is almost certainly it's a discharge. Pro tip: don't discharge, use lunge. It's super effective and it debuffs. Doesn't matter because we shielded it, but it would have debuffed us. And the Marowak comes back and there's not a lot it can do now. Good game to my opponent. So what have we got next? Tentacruel into a Haunter. So as before, we go quickly for a switch to an Umbreon and just start nibbling away at it. They bring in the Wigglytuff. That's good. This is the team doing what we wanted it to. I mean, this should be a bad matchup to counter switch, but it's not as bad as it sounds. They're going to farm us down. They're going to get an energy lead. As you can see, the Charm takes big chunks out of us, and I doubt they'll even bother to throw a charge move because they don't need to. But that's okay. The whole point of the Umbreon here is to bait out the Fairy. We're now then going to eat the Fairy with the Tentacruel, and actually we could have done with the health not being quite so low, because now we're going to have to spend a shield. Play rough would have been resisted. Ice Beam would have been resisted. Perhaps I didn't need to shield, but I did. So Haunter comes back. Not a great position. However, we have taken out the Fairy now, so we are in a position where we can potentially just acid spray the Haunter. And actually no, we don't acid spray it because we realise we don't really need to. We can just counter switch and go into the Muck versus Mandibuzz matchup. This way we've got an acid spray saved on the Tentacruel, which actually I'm thinking might not help because they still have 2 shields left and they still have a Haunter left. So really we need to be taking out this Muck with the Mandibuzz so we can get the Ghost to get eaten by the Dark type. And they've got the shields, so that's a nuisance. Still, well, but let's roll with it. So yes, this is where I'm not doing too well. I'm misplaying. In comes the Haunter, and that Shadow Ball is probably going to take us out in one hit. Yep. So it goes. I think I should have played that one better. I made a mistake with that one. I'm not actually sure which one it was. I probably should have been a bit more aggressive about shielding the Umbreon to stay in and win the switch, because I knew I needed to align my Mandibuzz with that Haunter. But so it goes. So it goes. Right. So Marowak, build up some energy. We go for a switch. We're hoping to catch a Shadow Ball, but good call by my opponent to switch out and save it up. It's not going to help, but you know. In comes a Spider, so with an energy lead and 2 shields. This is where we get to see the Galvantula matchup play out. This is where we're anticipating a lunge. We shield against them because they're switch locked. Otherwise they could have got to a shield lead and switched out potentially. We get to a foul play. As you can see, we are outpacing them to the charge moves and they just can't afford to let them land. So we are going to be able to pressure their shields. We shield again because lunge is still going to hurt and we want to preserve our health. And foul play comes through. And again, we're building up the energy lead. They still can't afford not to shield, even when debuffed, because foul play does quite a lot of damage to them. So we're going to get to the next one and take out the Galvantula. It doesn't take much energy lead to win this matchup, even though it looks bad on paper. Out comes the Azumarill. No shields left, that's not great, and we are debuffed, so the last resort's going to do nothing. We'll go for it anyway. They'll probably take us out with Ice Beam. Okay. Don't quite finish with an Ice Beam, so we'd get to the last resort, but we have been debuffed now, so our already dismal attack stat is even lower. But that's okay, that's okay. We're going to get to a foul play maybe. No, misplay on my part, I should have thrown the foul play. Still. Tentacruel comes back in. Tentacruel likes Azumarills, it eats them for lunch. Ice Beam does nothing, and we are perhaps going to have to go to an Acid Spray just to try and take it out, because we do want to preserve our health for whatever's left. But that's okay, we can roll with it, because we know there's a Marowak in the back, and I should have switched a bit faster. I'm going to switch now. They're switch locked against us, so we're just going to have to farm them, and rely on the fact that that can carry us through to the Azumarill matchup, and finishes off with the low health Tentacruel if we need to. But the Mandibuzz versus Marowak matchup is a solid one, so we're just going to peck away, throw a little bit of damage from the flying move to take down some health, and carry on farming. Again, I think I'm getting a bit cocky here, and the Shadow Ball is taking us down a bit too far, but the objective here is to avoid them farming us too much with the Azumarill while still getting to 2 charge moves. but I let it get too low, so I'm not going to get to the 2 charge moves. That's my blunder. I shouldn't have been quite so cocky with the undercharge. But we're still taking it down quite a long way, and that extra move might have done the damage difference. Is it going to make it? Is it going to make it? It's just about going to make it. So I think this is going to be enough to take out the Azumarill before they get to their charge move. Yep. That was much tighter than it needed to be because I was just playing badly, I think. Anyway, it was a win, so I'll take it. Next up, Tentacruel into Azumarill. We nibble away. They haven't switched. They switched to an Umbreon. We switch to our Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz versus Umbreon is great because we resist all their dark moves. They can last resort us, but Foul Play doesn't do anything, and maybe they don't have last resort. So we're going to be able to air release them. Let's see if they've got a last resort this time. Nope, still Foul Play. Okay, I think my opponent might not have a last resort on this Umbreon, which is very unfortunate. It's one of the reasons that you really need the last resort, exactly for this scenario. And also for going up against Azumarills, which aren't exactly rare. My opponent has realised they're in such a bad position that I've got 2 hard counters to their team, and it's a good game. And this is our last match. Ivysaur versus Tentacruel. It's a reasonable start. We go into the Umbreon straight away to bait out the Azumarill. That was the plan, and it works. So, last resort. Last resort is, like I say, it's not a great move. It's quite expensive and doesn't do a lot of damage, particularly against an Azumarill, which is proper bulky. However, it does do neutral damage where a Foul Play is resisted, so you are at least taking some chip damage off it. Play Rough will come through. A Hydro Pump, so maybe it's Ice Beam Hydro Pump on this Azumarill. Lots of things are running Ice Beam Play Rough, just because you don't really need the anti-steel Hydro Pump, but Hydro Pump still has utility, I guess, particularly in this scenario where I'm not going to shield and my opponent knows it. So, we're just going to let them throw whatever they've got. It's probably an Ice Beam, yep. Not quite enough to take out the Umbreon though. I mean, these are so very sturdy. We've taken 2 charge moves off an Azumarill, which is quite impressive, I feel. There we go, they're taking us out. However, we now have our Tentacruel, which means we can farm for energy, yum yum, and then throw it to whatever comes in next. So we've got the Ivysaur coming back. Like I say, Ivysaur versus Tentacruel is not as bad as it sounds, because our poison does neutral to them, and their grass does neutral to us. However, their grass charge move, Power Whip, there you go. It's neutral, it doesn't quite blow us up, but it does do us a lot of harm. However, they now switch to a Haunter and brought that into a Mandibuzz, which is great for us because now we resist them quite hard. They've got a Sludge Bomb, that's a good call on their part. We are going to have to start shielding because we can only take one of those. However, we can take a whole Sludge Bomb off a Haunter, which I still think is a pretty impressive thing. Now, don't think this is fast enough for another Sludge Bomb, but we're going to not risk it and we're going to shield, and it's bait. Still, cheeky my opponent. I still think I'm going to go for Farm Down. Now this I'm pretty sure is still a bait, so I'm just going to not shield it. And there we go, Shadow Punch still doesn't do a great deal. Okay, so we've got the energy lead, we've got the shields equal, and we've got flying damage to land on their grass in the back. Get the shield off them. Tentacruel's going to come in and Acid Spray. This is going to be tight actually. This is going to be quite tight. Because if they don't charge move us, yeah, they've got the energy lead. However, we do still have the shield left, so we are going to be able to finish them off with flying damage. Good game to my opponent. Right, there we go. Bit of a Leviathan run, I'm afraid. But this was 4 sets played with that team, and I think you can see it's done me quite well indeed. I mean, it is taking good abuse of the fact that everyone's got Azumarills and lots of people have Marowaks, and I hard counter both. In other teams, like going up against Galvantula, as you can see, it doesn't do great against Galvantula, but it's still winnable, because Galvantula is very fragile, despite being a very powerful Pokemon. So you can just outbulk it, really. The multiple fairies, again, you saw we ran into that, and Tentacruel does great work there, because of how hard it countered the fairy types. And I think it would probably do well against the increasingly popular Rockhole team of Tentacruel, Shadow Tyranitar, and Crustle, because obviously it's not vulnerable to rock. That was part of my motivation here, because I've been running so many bugs that have been running into Crustles and they've been destroying me. Anyway, if you've got to the end, thank you for your patience, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.